What is up, podcast people? Welcome to another day, another episode with the Pod Squad. We got Kayla in the house. You want to say something, Kayla?
I'm hungry.
You're hungry? Tell us why you're hungry.
I have a meal prep container with 5 ounces of steak in my car.
A meal? So is the steak just like, it's like 90 degrees outside. So is that steak right now just...
It's microwaving.
Is it going from medium rare to like well done while sitting in your car?
I hope not. But I think it's going to be nice and warm and I'm just going to eat it.
We will pray for that today.
Yeah, if I'm sick next week.
Sorry guys, we missed the episode last week. We're still working how to work camera angles, and we actually did record an episode last week, but I messed up putting the camera angles on people, so you would have just saw like somebody's big thigh and half of my face.
Not mine. That
not
sounds
Kayla's
weird.
Thigh. It was a guy we had on, a guest, and he wore shorts, and it was just like the camera was.
Is this
all
our
about his thigh.
50th
This
one
is
right
our
now?
50th episode. What a blessing!
Imagine fake confetti poppers.
Fake confetti popping.
We should add it in.
Shout out to our 50th episode. If you have watched any of the last 49, you're a loyal fan. You've been a part of this journey, seeing this podcast grow over the last 49 episodes. I remember the first episode we ever did. I recorded it on my phone with a tripod, and the phone had the video and audio all in the same thing. And we just posted it on YouTube. I had no idea how to edit anything. Still don't, but we're figuring it out. So come along this journey as we do 50 more episodes, slowly getting better, giving clarity so we are not stranded in the world. Today, we got a juicy topic today, talking about red flags. Kayla, can you define what a red flag is for us?
Joshua Hanish. I'm joking.
Ouch. Okay.
Well, literary sense would be like a sign of caution.
Okay.
In the sense of what we're talking about, I'm guessing red flag would be certain actions or things to avoid within humans.
Yes, so like form of relationships.
Yeah.
Right? Hey, you're thinking about dating somebody, you're talking to somebody, maybe you are dating right now, and these are things to look out for. Like, hey, this is a red flag. Pull the brake, evaluate this before you go further. And then if you need to, break up, deuces, clarity's kindness. Don't ghost people, because that's not nice. But, be honest, be clear, and break up if it's not a healthy relationship. So, and where really this idea came from, sermon prepping for this Monday coming up, we're going through the book of 2 Timothy. And as I was going through the book of 2 Timothy, chapter 3 is we're going to be in this Monday. And chapter 3 starts out with giving us 19 characteristics of a person we should avoid. So this is not like, hey, 2 Timothy chapter 3, these are the red flags to look out for in dating, because dating is not in the Bible.
Preach.
But the Bible does show us how to evaluate people, shows us how to treat other people, what kind of people to avoid, how to judge people, a tree by its fruit. So the Bible gives us a lot of wisdom on who a person is on the inside. So here in 2 Timothy chapter 3, it gives us 19 characteristics. And as I was going through, I was like, man, that is a great, this is just 19 red flags right here you need to look out for when you're dating. Because he ends it with saying, avoid these people. They're ungodly if they are walking out in this manner. So
or if this is you.
Me?
Not like in general, but I mean or if
this is
one characteristic you're like, ooh.
You may be the red flag.
Yeah.
Low key. You may be listening to this right now like, oh, actually that's me, and people are avoiding me right now. So shout out to Paul, to Timothy. And I also love our relationship goal series we did a couple months ago. And 1 Timothy 4:12, we used the list there to show what to look for. So here in 2 Timothy, we almost get a list of, hey, avoid these things. Then in 1 Timothy, we get a list of, hey, this is what you should strive to become. 1 Timothy 4:12, don't let anybody look down on you because of your age, but set the example for the believers. And these are the 5 things you should strive to become as you're either evaluating somebody to date or who you should be. Set the example in speech, conduct, love, faith, and purity. So evaluate their speech, conduct, love, faith, and purity. So 1 Timothy, we just get a little checklist of these 5 things: speech, conduct, love, faith, and purity, of how a person acts. 2 Timothy, we get hey, avoid these kind of people. So we're going to jump in. This is 2 Timothy chapter 3, verse 1. I'm just going to go ahead. Should I just spit them off really fast? Or
yes, I say them all, and then we'll touch base on each one individually.
Right, you ready?
Rap it. I can beatbox behind it.
All right, give me a beat. But mark this. There will be terrible. Okay.
Okay. Okay. The first 19.
All right, here
go.
we go. It says people. So says there will be trouble times in the last day. People will be lovers of themselves, lovers of money, boastful, proud, abusive, disobedient to their parents, ungrateful, unholy, without love, unforgiving, slanderous, without self-control, brutal, not lovers of good, treacherous, rash, conceited, lovers of pleasure rather than lovers of God, having a form of godliness but denying its power, have nothing to do with such people. Boom.
Wow.
19 things. So we'll run it back for a little bit. So first starts out, people will be lovers of themselves, right? So selfish. Hey, so if you're evaluating dating, are they selfish? Do they value themselves over other people? Do they care about other people? Do they put others first? Or is it all about them, right?
Because I feel like that can show, like, if they are lovers of themselves, that can show you that the unwillingness of sacrifice that they're going to be willing to take in the deeper steps. But then what would you say to the people who are like, oh, it's me season, it's all me, that kind of mindset?
Yeah, and it can be all you, as long as all you is pointing towards somebody else, right? It can be all about you, as long as you are pointing somebody else to Jesus, right? We're made to reflect glory, not absorb glory in a way. But you got to love yourself to a degree, right? Love your neighbor as you love yourself. You need to have a form of self-love for sure. But when that self-love becomes selfish, instead of taking your eyes off of how can you serve others, you start thinking, how can people serve me? Red flag, right? So you don't want somebody who's always thinking, hey, how can people serve me? How can people serve me? You want that person of, who can I serve?
Yeah.
Right? The same way Jesus modeled, the Son of Man came to serve and not be served. So are they a lover of themselves? Next one, lover of money. Money, a big thing.
Yeah.
Right? Is it almost an idol? Are they always, and there's nothing wrong with being rich by any means, nothing wrong with having a good, wealthy income. Like, there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. But for the love of money is the root of all evil. When it becomes an idol, when you're chasing after it and loving it and putting it above everything else and just leaving people in the water to fulfill a bank account. Like just leaving people's chopped liver in the water in a way to fulfill a bank account. A lover of money. Boastful. Like, are they arrogant? They're boastful, running around with their chest up. Like, hey, look at me. Look what I did. I go to church. I'm a good Christian. Check me out. Boastful. Another one. Red flag. I kind of like this. This is just
we should have got like flags, like red flags.
I feel like I'm I don't like it, not a judge, but like I guess a judge on like America's Got Talent, but I'm hitting like the red X every time.
Yeah.
It's like boastful. This is funny. So we got boastful. Now we got proud. So boastful and proud kind of together, same thing. Are they arrogant? Do they like everybody for the lights to be on them, or do they show the light onto other people? Abusive. Big red flag.
Yeah, that's
there.
A huge red flag.
Physical abuse, mental abuse, verbal abuse, emotional abuse, spiritual abuse. Are they abusive in any way, shape, or form? Red flag. Are they disobedient to their parents? This is something not everybody likes to evaluate, right? Nobody thinks, hey, I'm about to date this dude or date this girl. Are they disobedient to their parent? Interesting. But it says here, avoid these kind of...
No, it's how they treat their ladies, how men treat their moms.
How men treat their moms, that's the secret.
It is. You got to watch. You do.
And it's one of the 10 Commandments. Honor your father and mother, right? So how do they treat people they live with? Their father figure, their mother figure. Do they respect it? Do they respect that person in authority above them? Are they ungrateful? Meaning, hey, do they not... What's a good example of being ungrateful? It's kind of self-explanatory, but I just want to elaborate more on it.
I mean, just like all the gifts that you're given on a daily basis, like not even being appreciative, like the act of not being appreciative.
Yeah, that's good. Unholy, big one. Like if they're not even with Jesus, they shouldn't. Yeah, buzzer. Are they without love? Right, that's a big one. And even going further with that love example, 1 John 4:8, for they do not know God, or they do not know love. That means they do not know God, because God is love. So if they don't know what love is, it means they don't know God, because God is love. So if they're without love, really, they're missing some type of a void with their relationship with Jesus. Unforgiving, that's a huge one. How do they forgive people? Do they always hold on to bitterness? Is it easy for them to forgive others? Or do they just consistently, do you hear them rant and spread rumors of, oh my gosh, this person just did this, I'm never going to forgive them because they hurt my feelings, and they said this to Lucy but said this to Tommy, and now I don't want to do anything with it. Unforgiving. That's a big piece. Being in a relationship, me and you, we're engaged, you got to be forgiving constantly.
Yeah.
Right? I do a lot of dumb things. You got to be forgiving constantly. Are they unforgiving? And these are not even red flags, but these are, yes, they are red flags.
Yeah.
And if you are a believer in Jesus, just to be in a healthy relationship, these are things that you just want to avoid, right? Even a relationship with Jesus or aside, just to have a healthy relationship, you don't want to be in a, it's like the Bible is speaking to give you wisdom on what a healthy person looks like. Here is an example of what a healthy person looks like. Christian or not Christian, you can use this wisdom to say, hey, look, this is what a healthy person looks like. Nobody wants to be abused. Yeah. Right? Whether you're a Christian or not, you don't want to be in an abusive relationship. Whether you're a Christian or not, you don't want to be in an unforgiving relationship to where your partner just holds everything above your head. Nobody wants to be in a relationship where they're just idolizing money. Like, the Bible here is giving us wisdom that applies to everybody.
And I think I think it's good to note that these are red flags, meaning like this is a caution because it leads to something else. It's not because we want you to be without money or be without like pride of yourself and like what things are accomplished, but it's like these are warning signs of this can lead to even worse effects. And I feel like people just get over analyzing and like freaking out that there's so many things that they have to follow or like try to become, but it's just like these are to ultimately save you and to make you a better person.
Yeah, that's good. Let's keep going. So we got slanderous, or are they without self-control? I mean, are they always easily angered? Do they lash out? Are they not able to control their temptations, their feelings, their emotions? Are they without self-control? That's probably not a good thing to be in a relationship with somebody who's without self-control. That just means they'll spend money left and right with no financial discipline. That means they'll just act out on every lustful temptation they have without any self-control or discipline. That means they'll lash out with any anger or verbal comments they may have without any self-control. Like self-control, big piece there. Are they brutal? Kind of going there with being abusive. Are they brutal? They're not lovers of good. I mean, do they just look at the good thing and look at the wrong thing and typically drift towards the wrong thing? Treacherous, rash, conceited, lovers of pleasure rather than lovers of God. That's a lot there. 19 red flags in a way. And then it ends with having a form of godliness but denying its power, which means they have a form of whoever you're evaluating, right? They outwardly express religion, outwardly say they're a Christian. So outwardly they have a form or a appearance of godliness. But by the way they live their life, they're denying its power, God's power. So on the outside, they're like putting on a show. When the cameras are on, I'm putting on a show. But on the inside, this is really what's truly happening. So as you're dating, right, red flags, these aren't deal breakers unless you see it repeated. Like if you see a habitual pattern of somebody who is, now actually I will say, some of these are non-negotiable. They are abusive. Probably not, that's a non-negotiable. I wouldn't give them a lot of time a day because then you may be hurt. So if you are listening and in a harmful relationship, we're here to help you. Reach out to anybody. We want to get you out of a abusive relationship. But some of these things of like self-control, loving of money, lover of themselves, like, hey, once you confront them with that truth of like, hey, Kayla, I'm starting to date you, this is the thing, but I really see the self-control piece is like, can we work on that? If you confront them with that and you don't see them pursue righteousness in a way, or like, hey, no, you're right, like I probably should work on my self-control, let me get better than that, versus you confront them with it and then they just lash out even more, like that's an even bigger red flag.
Well, right? It's like believe 50% of the words people say and 100% of the actions that they take from that. So like you could confront them with, we'll stay on like self-control of like that needs to be either worked on or like that is like a red flag to you. And so they could be like, oh yes, I'm going to do this, 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 and this. And in your brain, you're like, yay, like this is perfect, this is soft. But believe 50% of it. It's like that trust but verify thing too. Like trust that they want to work towards it, but verify and watch the conduct change.
And with all these and even throughout the Bible, when the Bible talks about evaluating people, it is never physical appearance things. Like here in 2 Timothy chapter 3, it said don't avoid people who have on a red jacket with blue shoes and pink socks. No, it gave us all characteristics about somebody. Like all the 19 things we just listed out are characteristics about people and how they live their life, which means you will only be able to tell those characteristics about somebody's life if you stop, take a step back, and observe their life, right? Because he's not saying, hey guys, look out for the blonde ones, look out for the brunettes, look out for the guys with the curly hair and the guys with the brown eyes, and avoid those people. Like, no, he's talking about how the way they live their life, by their actions, you will be able to tell if they're selfish, if they're a lover of money, if they're ungodly, unholy, if they're brutal, if they're abusive, like all these characteristics. And this is a big piece of dating that absolutely nobody does. We did it because I think it's biblical, right? But it's hitting the pause button and observe. Observe, observe, observe. Matthew 7, Jesus talks about, you will know a tree by its fruit. A bad tree cannot produce good fruit. A good tree cannot produce bad fruit. Only a good tree can produce good fruit, and only a bad tree can produce bad fruit. So, translation, a person who is a follower of Christ can only produce good fruit. Now, they can still sin and mess up, but big umbrella over the top can only produce good fruit. A follower of Christ cannot produce bad fruit. They can sin and mess up, but can't produce bad fruit. However, the flip side of that coin, if they are not a follower of Jesus, they cannot produce good fruit. So you need to stop. And how do you observe fruit? You let things grow, right? You can't just show up to a tree you can't just show up and magically expect a tree to grow 30 years in 2 seconds, right? For fruit to grow. You got to sit back, observe, and let things grow. How do they treat people is a huge, huge thing. So anybody out there dating, hey, what do I look for? What's the red flags? What are the non-negotiables? Sit back and observe.
Yeah.
Observe. I cannot stress this enough. I would say this, 90% of your relationship problems could be solved if you would sit back and observe the person before you go on the date with that person.
Yeah. Well, I think people jump the gun on, like, they look at someone and they're like, oh, they're attractive. I want to get to know them. But there's like, get to know them and then find them attractive.
Because they have a form of godliness, but denies power, right? On the outside, they're attractive, right? A wolf in sheep's clothing.
Yeah.
The outside, man, they're so cute. Man, they got an Instagram verse in their bio. He goes to church, and he holds the door open for me. He serves at church. She does this. He does that. They're so attractive on the outside. Like, oh my, he's telling you right here, they have a form of godliness. Like, guys, girls, heads up, they will look beautiful on the outside. Nobody's debating that whatsoever. I 100% guarantee you they will look beautiful by their outward appearance. But that's going to stop after 2 seconds when you get into that relationship and find out that they are a lover of money, boastful, proud, abusive, disobedient to their parent, ungrateful, unholy, without love, unforgiving, slanderous, without self-control, brutal, not a lover of good, treacherous, rash, conceited, lovers of pleasure instead of lovers of God. Right? You can get caught up in this outside appearance and dive head first all you want. You're just going to keep getting yourself hurt because you do not take the time to have self-control yourself, to sit back and observe. Sit back and observe. I sure wrote a song about that.
But touch base then on you see these red flags.
Yeah.
You're in that early dating stage. You going into now, like, basically conflict resolution. Go into the conversation that you bring up. Hey, like, hey, I think you're boastful.
Yeah.
Or like, hey, I think you're obsessed with money. Like, what would that conversation look like?
Yep. I think that plus community, right? The person you are dating hopefully has a biblical community around them.
Orange flag.
Right. Orange flag, a beige flag. To where you can fact check things, right? Hey, Kayla, you got a small group. Hey, I go to your small group leader. Hey, do you see Kayla as the same way I see her with this? Hey, can we go to her together and just out of love? And this conversation looks, how it's played out, I view it looking differently. Like, it's not, oh my gosh, you're not self-controlled, get your stuff together. It's, hey, look, I love you. I want to be in this relationship with you. This is something that makes me nervous. What are your thoughts on it? It makes me really nervous pursuing a relationship with you because you're very angry sometimes. Can we work on that? That's how I picture this conversation going. It's like, hey, out of love, I love you. I love this relationship. But this thing right here, I can't get over it, and it is making me nervous. And it's almost like cautioning me to take a step back. Are you willing to work on it?
Yeah.
Right? to where it's a lot more, it's not confrontational, but more coming from a heart posture of love, right? And I would say in these red flags, there are some non-negotiables, like an abusive relationship. If they're not a follower of Christ, like there are some non-negotiables in there, but don't deceive yourself. Like I think many of us know what the non-negotiables are. We know what red flags are. We keep moving forward, right? Yeah. It's like, yeah, it'll get better someday.
Amusement park, red flags.
It's like at the beach, right? Yeah. When you go to the beach, they have flags on the beach to tell you what kind of weather the ocean is in, so to speak. Like, hey, is it very choppy outside? Are the waves really big, really small? Is there a riptide? Is it dangerous swimming, no swimming? So they put flags on the beach to tell you, hey, before you get in the water, this is what you're walking into. Be cautious, no swimming, big riptides, big waves. And sometimes it just says, don't swim. Yeah. And I think with us, when it comes to relationships, we sit there on the sand and we see the caution flags. Like, hey, if I go into this water, this is what's going to happen. And then we get in the water, and then we act like we didn't know what was going to happen.
And we're like, we could change the water.
Yeah. It's like, man. And I say this out of compassion, guys. I'm not trying to sound angry or to sound holier than thou. But out of compassion, guys, we have to be smart. Guys and girls dating, please be smart. Don't fall for the outside appearance. If you see a red flag, it's because it's a red flag, right? If you see that they are not following Jesus, it's because they're not following Jesus, right? So don't just overlook something, but it's okay, right? It's okay to not follow somebody because of a red flag. Like that is a good thing, to not go into a relationship that will lead down a bad road.
I know we talked about this separately the other day, but a lot of times I think people, not that they get too invested, but we were saying how like relationships is kind of hard when you're dating incorrectly, and then you try to correct something and you try to leave the relationship, but then there's so much issues now because you didn't date correctly in the first place.
Yeah.
Like if you're being physical before marriage and things like that, and then you find out that they're like this extremely angry person, but you've already been like connected in that matter, then makes it harder to leave those relationships. So connecting that into these red flags are really good too, and just putting importance on just like the dating, even just wisely. I don't want to say correctly, but just wise. Yeah, like it's not supposed to be this dramatic.
If you I don't want to say date incorrectly. Yeah. But if you date without wisdom, then that makes you stay more attached and keep going down that road when you see red flags being waved.
Yeah. Because then you're like, we can't break up. We already like did this or this.
We already had sex. We already did this. Our bank accounts are combined. We're already living together. So it's okay that they're without self-control. It's okay they're idolizing money. It's okay they're not following Jesus because we've already gone this far and we can't turn back.
Yeah.
It's never too late to turn back, guys. I want to say, man, dating in general, right? It's a lot easier than you think. Like, I know it sounds like there's so many rules. I need to do this, do that. It's a lot easier than you think. You follow Jesus full-heartedly, you can. And then you date somebody who is following Jesus full-heartedly, they can. And then you two get married. Simple it, right? You follow Jesus is fat. Paul says, run your race as if you're aiming for first place. You follow Jesus individually as hard and as fast as you can. And then you find somebody who is also following Jesus as hard and as fast as you can. Then you go on a date. And you dating them. And then while you're dating them, the only purpose of dating is to confirm if you can marry them or not. So if you're dating this person that is following Jesus just as fast as you are, and you can confirm you can marry them, let's go for it. Or if you're dating them and you can confirm you will not marry them for whatever the reason may be, maybe there's just no spark, no connection, maybe long distance, whatever the reason may be, then stop dating, right? Dating is so much easier than you think if you play within the boundaries that God has given you to play in, right? Be a follower of Jesus and follow Jesus. Avoid these red flags. The Bible is giving you wisdom on what kind of people to avoid. Listen to that. You are not smarter than God. You're what's a dating app? Tinder, right?
Yeah.
You know how dating apps can take your profile and somebody else's profile. I've actually never used a dating app before, so I'm going off of. But I've actually never used a dating app. I just realized that. But how it works is you create a profile, somebody else created a profile, then the algorithm, computer, whatever, matches these people together based on common interests. And we think, hey, I got my profile. Let me look at that other guy or other girl, look at their profile. And I personally think my interests are going to match their interests. So let me force this thing together.
Yeah.
Promise you guys, you're not smarter than God. You are not. You're not smart.
And people put their negatives on there. It's not like, I'm addicted to this. Come hang out with me.
You're not smarter than God. God has given you a beautiful book full of wisdom on what to look for and what to avoid. Go with what he told you to do. Respectfully, out of love. His wisdom is way better than yours. And me and you, we are a living proof of that wisdom being played out.
Yeah.
Right? Like we've been engaged for what? February, March, April, May, 4 months? A little over 4 months, about to be married in July. Like we are a living proof of when you walk out in God's wisdom, the fruit that comes from that.
And having the difficult conversation and correcting things, forgiveness.
Yep.
All of the above.
Yeah, man, that's so good. So this whole episode, red flags, right? If you see a red flag, listen to it, avoid it. Don't fall for that outward appearance. Please don't fall for the outward appearance because it's deceitful. You can look like a wolf on the inside with sheep's clothing on the outside. You can look like a godly person on the outside and just it all be for show on the inside. When the camera is off, who are they? And you can only realize that when you stop and observe. And this is, I know we're about to run out of time, but I want to hit this. So now it's like the common question of, right, well, what if, like, how do I observe them, right? Like, what if they don't go to church with me?
Josh, you just don't text them back for a little bit.
LOL. Like, how do you observe somebody? Invite them to social settings, right? Whether if they don't go to church with you, then invite them to church. Like, hey, we got this young adult group on Monday night. We'd love for you to just come hang out. Like, hey, a group of us are going to this movie. I want you to come hang out. Invite them to social settings to see how they are, right? And then maybe you're like, Josh, I can't even do that. Like, I don't have a young adult group to invite them with. I don't have a social setting to invite them into. I just feel like I need to go on a date to observe. Okay, go on the date, but go slow, right? When you go,
why we're here,
right? When you go on this date, go into a social setting. See how they treat really fact check everything, observe everything. How do they treat the waiter? How do they treat the person that they hold the door open for somebody? What music do they listen to on the car? Like, observe as much as you can and gather as much information as you can when you go on this date, so then you can make the best decision possible after that date if you want to go on another one or not. Right? Observe everything. I know that sounds almost crazy and creepy, right? You gotta why should I care what kind of music they listen to on the car right there? Why should I care if he held the door or not? Why should I care who paid for the bill or not? Why should I care what environment they took me to on this date? No, observe everything. Soak in as much information as you can on this date. I'm not saying interview that person, have a list of 30 questions, but just observe. What do they say? How do they say it? How do they walk? How do they talk? What music are they listening to? When they take you on the date, is it a creepy back alley coffee spot in the middle of nowhere and it's kind of dark and scary?
Yeah, or are they honoring you?
Are they
your safety?
Correct, right? Like, all these things, soak in as much information as you can so you can make the best decision possible. And we really hope you guys date well. So red flags, 2 Timothy chapter 3, I encourage you to read it. Those are some things to avoid, or fact check yourself. You may need to correct some things. But with all that said, peace, love, and happiness. Appreciate you guys. Thank you for watching our 50th episode. We're excited for episode 51. Adios. Welcome to the Stranded Podcast. Our desire is to help you not be stranded. When you navigate life, you have many decisions you need to make to set yourself up for the best life possible. We want to help you make every decision by looking through the lens of the Word of God. So each episode here is going to help you not be stranded to navigate your life.